All right, well, it's about that time to start, so let's get on with today's show. So April is here, and it is my favorite month of the year because it's that swing month where we go from the dreary snowy days to the dreary rainy days. And I will take dreary rain over snow any day because sunshine always follows. Well, funny enough, it rained this morning and it followed with snow. So hope that doesn't keep happening. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Franklin. I'm the product app specialist for Kits and your webinar host. Now, this is the place where you need to be to learning those tips and tricks in Kits to becoming that supercharged power user. In case you have any questions for me today, I will try to monitor as best as I can, but we will take them up at the end of today's session. What you can do is you can submit them in the chat box that's going to be located in the GoToWebinar control panel. Should be on the right side of your screen. And what I'll do is I will take a few minutes at the end of today's webinar to answer them. Now, just as a reminder, our free training webinar is scheduled for April 11th. So be sure to join, especially if you're new to Kits or if you just want a refresher. All you need to do is you need to go to the Knowledge Center, and you can register for all our webinars there. Or what you can do is you can also look out for Julia's latest email blast for webinars. All right. All right. With that being said, let's get on with today's webinar. So today, what I'll be going over is how to enhance your renderings in three ways. First, we're going to understand how to present your layout. What does this mean? Perspective. Okay, so this is actually something that I talk about, and I talk about it frequently because sometimes we work with users, and they'll send us their projects. We'll have a look at them. We'll see how they set them up, what their previous renderings are, and we get a lot of renderings that again are in a bird's eye view, or maybe just not taking advantage of the frame of the device that they're using. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about presenting your layout, because how you present it, the type of perspective that you take is going to be all important to your client truly understanding the solution that you're providing them. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more on that when we get into it. Then we're going to enhance the rendering with the Kiwi catalog. So if you're not familiar with it, I will show you where to get that and how to access it, and also what are all the goodies in the Kiwi catalog. And then we're going to look at how we can quickly add an environment to our typical. Okay. All right. So let's get started with today's show. And I'm going to go ahead and open up Kits here. Bear with me one moment. All right. So here is my Kits, and the first thing I want to talk about is first syncing all the appropriate catalogs that you may need. Okay, so I did mention the Kiwi catalog. So if you're new to Kits, you may be wondering, what am I talking about? Well, the Kiwi catalog is basically a catalog that we created to allow you to enhance your scene, humanizing your scene by adding elements such as plants, people, equipment. These are the kind of things that, as professional interior designers, what we do is we use these elements to truly provide our client with an understanding of how the furniture or how the space itself is going to support the people that are within it. Okay, no different than what we're actually doing in terms of contract furniture. All right, the furniture that we sell is going to support some type of human functionality. Okay, so that means it could be a team of people working on a project. It could be maybe some staffers that are solo, managers, executives. Doesn't matter. The furniture that these manufacturers create serve one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to support people. So knowing that we know that furniture supports people, then what we need to do is, in the illustration that we provide, if we're using Kiwi catalog items, what we want to do is we want to enhance that image so that we can show how that space is going to be used, how the furniture is going to be used. Okay, so the Kiwi catalog you can find here under the design collection. And I do apologize as I'm just getting over a cold. Here under the Kits Design Collection, you can see that you may not see 3 catalogs as I do have access to all the catalogs, but the KXR is a different catalog for a particular license, in case you're wondering. But you should have access to the Kits Office Environment Elements and the Kits Office Text Environment, catalog. Okay, these 2 catalogs will help you present your layout in a way where you can truly illustrate what your communication is, what your sales message is to your client. All right. So again, just like any other catalog, all you need to do is make sure that you're synced up, and then we're going to sync it to the account. All right. So again, the KOE catalog is going to have elements such as equipment, computers, laptops, telephones, printers, etc. People, architectural elements. These are all things that we can truly take advantage of to enhance our scenes. All right, so now that I've downloaded that, let's go ahead and open up one of my projects here. Okay, so we have this lovely private office that was created. Okay, now we can take several scenarios. Let's say this one is going to be an executive that works with top clientele. So fit and finish of the space itself needs to be top. That means we want to make sure that the people that are coming to visit this manager, we want to accommodate them. We want to make sure that they feel that they're VIPs. We want to make sure that they feel like that they're working with the best. So fit and finish of the furniture is all important here. But when we talk about presenting this type of scenario, what I'm looking for is understanding what the space is going to look like for my clients that are coming in. Okay, I'm going to take sort of the perspective view of the person that is, running the show here at this office. When I come in, I want to make sure that I'm looking at a space that, again, is going to accommodate my clients. It's going to make them feel comfortable. It's going to make them feel special. So the perspective view I want to take is going to be in the eyes of the actual client. So this is the reason why I'll take this approach in terms of a perspective. Because, again, regardless of, what the rest of the space is going to look like, we already know that this office space is going to have 4 walls. We don't know if there's glazing anywhere. But the idea here is that, again, what I'm doing is I'm going to create an illustration that is going to best represent what this space is going to look like in the eyes of the client. This is going to give my client, who I'm trying to sell this furniture to, a better understanding that I truly understand what they need as opposed to what they want. All right? So I'm going to set this up in a perspective view that best represents that perspective view, and I'm going to take a rendering. All right? Now, again, this is Kits. There's no reason why you can't take several renderings, different approaches to, again, at the end of the day, what we really want to do is we want to convey our solution to our clients in a way that they truly understand. All right. Let's take one more here. And lastly, one view that I always like to take advantage of is a plan view. And the reason why is in case they need to know what the footprint looks like, we can show them what the footprint looks like in a line drawing. Okay. All right. So I got my initial renderings all created. I can certainly create a document and send it out to my client, or I can easily email the images. Now, I'm using my Windows 10 device today, and you may have noticed, in case you're an iPad user, that when I did an export, I didn't have the option to send it out as an email. For all you Windows 10 users out there, the only reason why it doesn't initially open up an email is because for all Windows 10 devices, there's no native email client that's associated to the device. All right. It's up to you which type of email client you want to use, whether it's Outlook or one of the other Google's, Yahoo, or whatever it is. With the iPad has a native email client, and that's Mail. All right, and each iPad is unique to the email that's been assigned to it. So Kits understands this. It's able to generate the email and also populate a template and add those images. All right, so that's the only difference. All right, so I understand the perspective view. I've taken all these wonderful renderings. I can continue on with creating this documentation, or I can continue on with now enhancing my scene. Okay, so first off, we know that this is a space that's going to be for top clientele. So we want to make sure, again, what we want to illustrate here is how the space is going to be used, right? So we need a manager. And I'm sort of going off the cuff here. But what I like to do is I like to use my top fives, okay? And I'll talk about my top fives after I bring in Mr. Manager here, or Mrs. Manager. Okay, in this case, it's Ken, PM9. And if you've been to my webinars before, you know that he's my favorite guy. Only reason why is he is the best fit universally for any manufacturer's chair. All right, and you can see he's busy there trying to type away. Let's go ahead and assign color to him. And now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I do a multi-select. So I select the chair and the person. And how did I do that on a Windows 10 device? Well, I clicked with my left mouse button, I held shift, and I clicked again with my left mouse button on the other item. If you're an iPad user, all you have to do is tap on select, highlight it, and any item that you touch or select will also be added to that selection. Okay. Now that I have both of them together, I'm going to group them together. Why am I doing this? Well, it makes it easier. Anytime I need to adjust the chair in any way, I'm also moving the person. Okay. Let's bring them right in. And let's go to 3D view. Okay. So you can see that he's busily typing away there. You might notice again, and I like to point these out, some graphic issues. Okay. We can always make an adjustment. Let's ungroup. Select them. We'll have to raise them vertically. So I've selected up, down. For you iPad users, it's a simple 3-finger gesture. But what I'm also going to do is looks like I'll have to turn off my snap to. And I can set him up appropriately. Like I know I'm lifting him off the floor. And you can see here that his legs are probably raised. But remember, this is a graphic that we're actually creating for a client. They're not going to pick up on these graphic deficiencies, in which I call them, right? Because we're not going to be taking a rendering of their feet. We're going to be taking a rendering showing how this office space is going to be used. All right, so I got Ken here. Let's go ahead and add a few more items, such as we could talk about my top 5. So my top 5 items I like to use always starts off with some type of equipment, such as a Mac or a laptop, a device that somebody needs to do some work with. All right. In this case, this is a manager. They're most likely going to have a laptop. I don't know why. I think all managers have laptops rather than desktops. Let's also make sure that Snap to is on. We can adjust this as we go along, or we can wait till we add all the elements and then do an adjustment. Here you can see again, if I deselect, you can see that the laptop is sort of inside the work surface. Now you may be wondering why it appears inside the work surface when I drag it into the scene. And that's because every manufacturer has sort of a different idea of what desk height is supposed to be. So some will do it at 28.5, some will do it at 28.75, 29, etc. So what we do is we just generalize the height to allow anything that needs to go on a desktop coming at that height. I believe it was 28.5. But all you need to do again is adjust it manually. Okay. Again, what I like to do is I like to adjust everything at the end because I'm most likely going to have to fix other items that I bring in. The next item that I like to use is, again, another piece of equipment. Now, again, this is a manager. They may have a phone. Cell phone is great, so I like to bring in a cell phone. Now, you can see here the cell phone appears on the floor, and the reason why is because there's just various various places you can put a cell phone on. Could be on a credenza, could be on a coffee table. So we left it on the floor for you to make your own adjustments. Okay, so I got the phone there. Next, what I like to do is I like to add a decorative item. Now, usually with these layouts, we try to be sort of devoid of any kind of color, okay, other than the color that they're expecting in terms of the furniture. And that's so we don't detract them in any way in maybe picking an incorrect color that they may not like. So I like to add a bit of pop of color using some accessories. My favorite accessory is this red mug. Okay, so I got 3 other items here. Next thing I like to add is another decorative item, and it could be, oh, let's undo that, and it could be a plant, it could be books, it could be whatever. What you should do is you should base this on basically the functionality of the space itself. Okay, so again, this is a manager. They may want to have some type of additional display that they may need to indicate certain things to their clients. So I'm going to go ahead and add a small LED TV to the wall here. Okay, so 32 is the smallest I have. Let's go ahead and add that. Let's go into plan view. And let's drag it into place here. Okay. Now all we need to do is drop it down. And there we go. Okay, pretty cool looking office place. It has everything that they need. It has my top 5 items, which includes a laptop, some type of equipment, a telephone, a mug, decorative items, and the LED TV. Remember, their top 5 should always be reflecting the type of space that it's going to go into. So my top 5 for a private office is going to be different than my top 5 for a meeting table. All right. These are the top 5 that you'll have to sort of recognize. But what you want to do is you want to download the Kiwi catalog and understand exactly what you have available to you. Just to quickly open it here, you can see we have architectural elements where we have all these different categories of different elements that you can include in your scene. We have office elements, again, with accessories and equipment, just as I've shown you. Plants, which I do love. My favorite plant is plant F1, which is a ficus, which we actually have in our office space. I kind of just remodeled it. And people. Now, the ceiling category, you probably won't use it. It was done as a beta, but we left it in just in case you wanted to play around with it. But people is all important. And why is it all important? Because people truly provide scale to the space and functionality. You can't necessarily illustrate functionality without people being in the space. So that's the reason why we've added them, and they're a great source to really getting that communication to your client. Okay. All right. So I got my type 5 items. I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and take an initial rendering. All right. Now, I hit all those points that I talked about, adding the top 5, enhancing the scene, showing the functionality of the space. But one thing that I've left out is adding people, adding additional people that are going to be the clients. So let's go ahead and bring those clients in. And again, I like to go in thumbnail view. Now, unfortunately, the line art for these are blurred, which we do have to fix. But you can see all the different type of gesturing that we have. What I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring in some people. That again will help illustrate how the space is going to be used, okay? So here I'm going to turn off Snap to again, and you can see how I go in and out of the project settings using the Snap to. And since these guys are guests, we're going to say they're gray. And just as though, looks like I've pushed him a little bit too far in. And just as I have with Ken here, I'm going to group these two together. Again, I talk about don't worry about the graphic deficiencies, and here I am being a perfectionist. One last time, let's fix this. I'd rather not his bum show, so let's get him in there. All right, that's good enough for me. So let's get that going. And then we're going to get one more person. And let's go ahead with another seated person. All right, there we go. Oh, and again, we'll have to make a quick adjustment with her. All right, so you can see how quickly, by adding these elements, how quickly it now changes the dynamic of that rendering. All right, let me show you something. This is the perspective view that I'm talking about, where now you can see how I have this manager here working with the clients. Here you can even see that the client is pointing out at whatever's being displayed at the TV, talking about whatever. They're deep in conversation. Hopefully they're closing on a big deal. This really truly tells me the type of space that I'm creating here. It allows me to illustrate the solution that we provided the client, hitting on all the requirements that they needed. Now, let's turn it around. Now, this perspective view, again, shows a different, with lack of a better word, perspective of the space. All right, here it looks like I have two people that are meeting with another staff worker, sort of directing the meeting. These are different ideas, and these are different ways of thinking in terms of how we can illustrate renderings to our client. Because how we position our rendering can put a focus differently. Here, if we take the position of the rendering in the perspective view of the clients coming in, I get a focus of the people that are within the space. If I turn it around, they're sort of far removed, and what I see is more of the furniture. Okay, we as salespeople, as sales professionals, have to quickly analyze and determine what is going to be the best approach. Do we want to highlight the furniture? Well, we do in a way, of course we do, because we're selling the furniture, but we also want to focus on and illustrate how that furniture is going to support the functionality of the space. All right, so you can see in two different perspective views, I put a focus really on the functionality of the space and how the furniture is supporting how this person is working with the two. And now in this perspective, I get more of an idea of the furniture. These are the different things that we have to think about when we're actually working on projects, especially when we're client facing, because those little tidbits can actually make the difference in terms of our clients truly understanding, again, what we're actually working with here. Okay? All right. So I'm pretty cool with this. I think what we can do now is we can take a look at how adding an environment, again, provides a different dynamic. So what we can do is we can go to HD Render, and under HD Render, we have Include Environment. If we click here, now, for all the Windows 10 users, there's no augmented reality version of Select Environment that's associated to this account. It's probably the only thing that's different than our iOS users. There is additional licensing, the XR Pro license, which allows you to fully take advantage of our augmented reality and virtual reality features. We just launched it not too long ago. All right. So if you're interested in having those type of features, then you can always contact us and we can give you more information about that. But what you have access to are samples. Okay. Under the samples, we have a slew of different environments that you can use. And the reason why we've created these is sort of to reflect some of the more common spaces that we see nowadays. Okay, so you have your typical corporate office, industrial space, and sort of loft space. All right, and then you have other things such as a large atrium, maybe a small office, a reception area, again, a corner part of the office, some type of classroom, K-12 style, and again, more of industrial. So these are all different type of environments that we can sort of take advantage of. All right. What I like to do is I like to place the furniture in an environment that will not necessarily reflect my client's space, but provide them with an idea of what the space is going to look like within the context of a building. Okay, and the reason why that's sort of important is because it's sort of understanding, it gives you a better understanding of scale and space. All right, and sometimes looking at white space, white background, doesn't truly convey what the solution is going to be. So we may have to use some additional environments as we have here. So I'm going to pull out a few, and you can see how they look against the project. Now here's a quick tip. What I like to do is you can see how the floor grid populates when the environment's put in. So what I like to do is do select all by double tapping or double clicking on select all, grouping all my items together, and now deleting them. This now gives me the ability to position the floor grid according to the perspective view of the space. Okay, so I have it here. Let's now hit undo, and you can now see what that looks like. Okay, now you may be thinking, it looks a little bit too large for the space. Let's even bring it closer to this column. And you're absolutely right. But these are things that, again, that I always talk about in terms of what you can do. Here's the graphic that's been generated. I'm going to export it to my photo library. And now what I'm going to do is, let's just minimize this for a second here. Let's find my pictures folder. Here's the image that we just created. I'm just going to open it quickly with Paint. Let's quickly select that. And let's now close, open something new. Save. Oops. Now, if you're used to using a photo editor, you can certainly do so. Paint doesn't necessarily allow you to scale it appropriately, so you can see how it's miscued here. But you can see that I can now take a snippet of that, and I can provide my client with a quick shot of what that space looks like with the context of a building. Okay, these are different things that you can do with, especially with the renderings that you're creating with kits, and then additional documentation or programs that you have a part of your arsenal there. Okay, so that's one, using the environment. And again, you know, it's a large environment, so what I did was I took a quick shot of it, a smaller bit, so that my clients can actually see what it looks like. Let's add another environment. And even if you pick a single environment, it doesn't mean that you have to stick with it. You can use as many as you want, as many as you need to best illustrate what you're doing. Okay, again, this one might be a little bit better. Same idea. Let's now make sure that the perspective is correct. Literally what I'm doing is I'm following the perspective line here on this wall, perspective line on the back wall, adding the furniture in. We can even bump it up a little bit closer. And we're going to create a rendering. And if it's too large, again, what we can do is we can zoom in, and we can also do another cutout of that space. See, these are all different things that you could take advantage of in terms of the predefined environments that we already have in kits. Okay, it's a matter of exploring how these all work for you. So you can see all these different ways you can actually place the furniture. Don't feel that you're bound to having to show all the furniture. Remember, it's up to you how you want to convey what you're selling to your client. So you can truly take advantage of different things. For instance, let's remove all environments. I'm just going to appropriately set this again. Okay. There's nothing saying that you can't take close-up rendering shots. Again, putting your perspective on the functionality of the space. Different views of the furniture, regardless of what's actually happening. The idea here is that you can fully take advantage of this mobile rendering because you don't need to be connected to any kind of Wi-Fi. The rendering service is actually built in to our program, so you can render as many times as you want, as many perspectives as you want. It's all about understanding what you need to do in terms of landing that project or landing that bid. All right, so think about how you can utilize kits to sort of convey your sales communication to your client, tell them a story based on the images that you're providing them. It could start off with no people, no KOE catalog, just the furniture alone, and then you can slowly start to build up by adding a manager, equipment, people. These are all different things, again, that will slowly start to convey the solution that you're providing your client and why, again, you as a salesperson is the right person to work with. Because what we're doing here is we're showing our client that we truly understand what they need as opposed to what they want. Okay? All right. Well, that is pretty much it. I tried to stretch it out a little bit. I didn't want to end it too early. This is actually something that's important to me as an interior designer. For a good number of years, I was providing professional rendering services for a lot of my clients, a lot of the projects that I was working on, regardless of whether or not it required renderings, which sometimes didn't fly with when it came down to who's paying for all this, right? But really, when it came down to for me, is that the rendering wasn't just something that we can make extra money on. It was something that was going to allow me to truly show my client that I understood. That before they make those big decisions, they can actually envision the space because they see it right in front of them, almost enough that they can actually touch it. See, that's the power of that of finding the right perspective and truly engaging with your client, understanding exactly what they need, and then showing them that in an illustration. All right. All right. So it looks like I just need to bring up my reflector. It looks like it bogged out on me here. Now, it's a problem when you work on several devices. All right. So I'll have this connection in just a second. There we go. All right. So that's pretty much it. We've now reached the end of today's session. What you should truly be taking away from today's webinar is that you need to identify what you'll need to add to your renderings beforehand so you know, again, the KOE catalog and environments that you can use to enhance your renderings. But understanding the perspective view is utmost truly the most important thing that you can use and understand to communicating your solution. It shows your clients that you get what they need. So know your project requirements, engage and ask questions because creating the rendering is about illustrating how the furniture is going to serve and support their requirements. All right. All right. So let's see if there are any questions here. And it looks like I have a couple of questions. Okay. First question is, how do I register for the free training webinar on August 11th? April 11th. Very easy. You can go to our KITS Knowledge Center and you can go under the resource tab. Let me see if I can just quickly bring it up here. Okay. Let's bring up KITS. And if you go to the KITS Knowledge Center and click on resources or just hover over resources, here you can see we have different tabs: free training, webinar Wednesday, KITS community tutorials. Click on free training. That will lead you to the registration page. It'll tell you a little bit of what the agenda is. Here you can see all the different dates that we're running. Save my spot. You can just click on there and then you can register for April 11th. All right. All right. Next question is, Can I import a picture for environments? Unfortunately, not. Now, it's a question we get asked all the time, and believe you me, I wish we could, but it takes an immense amount of development and coding, and I appreciate this world now that I've been exposed to it for quite a number of years now. But one of the reasons why we can't necessarily introduce our own environments is because there's a special way that Kits takes advantage of the camera that uses the camera that is taking the picture. So, for instance, on an iPad, there are metrics that Kits will take to allow the space to be sort of used, the depth analysis, being able to understand that via the camera settings. So there's a reason why, again, just entering your own environment isn't going to drive because it may not have the right metrics that we need. But it is certainly something that we are thinking of, and there's different scenarios, and I can happily to discuss them quickly right now. We've looked at being able to use your smartphone because everybody has a smartphone. The camera metrics are similar from each smartphone as it is to a lot of the touch devices. Being able to take a picture with that and then sending it to your account is one way that we're thinking about doing it. And there are several others, but that is probably the best way. So again, it's something that we're really playing around with and understanding. So stay tuned. You never know when it may show up. All right, and let's just see if there's any more. And that was it. All right. So it looks like those are all the questions we got for today. So on behalf of the KITS team, I want to say thank you to the KITS community for participating each and every week. Don't forget, we're always looking for your submissions to becoming our next KITS collaborator to showcase your project in our Knowledge Center. This is a great way of sharing your experiences and your stories with other users. All you have to do is contact us with a success story, your selfie, and some rendered images of your project. And what we'll do is we will reward you with an Amazon gift card of $50. All right? No strings attached. And I say this all the time. It's really that easy. Because it's really that easy. So contact us if you want to be our next featured collaborator, and we will give you $50 via Amazon. Okay? All right. Check back at the Knowledge Center for any news and announcements, especially for our webinar schedule for both our basic training session as well as Webinar Wednesdays. By the way, there will be no Webinar Wednesday next week. I will be traveling on that day, but it will certainly continue the following week. All right. Well, that's it for me today, folks. Thanks again for attending today's webinar, and I'll see you next time for Webinar Wednesday. Bye, everyone.